Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Today, we're going to be sharing information about ARD 101. This is a potential new treatment for individuals with PWS who do experience hyperphagia. Participating in a clinical trial is one of the most impactful ways that you can support the PWS community. These trials are essential. They allow us to evaluate new treatments, understand their effectiveness, and ultimately they help get these drugs approved for broader use by our community. So thank you, because by joining today's webinar, you're taking the important first step towards helping our community advance PWS clinical research. I'm so pleased to be able to be joined today by Mansi Jaiman and Tian Li from Aardvark Therapeutics. They'll be sharing more about ARD 101 and why they believe it may benefit individuals with PWS. And of course, we will go through what you can expect if you choose to participate in this clinical trial. There will be time at the end of the presentation for questions, but please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A function that's in your Zoom panel. So with that, I'd like to pass the baton to Mansi and Tien.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Susan. I'll maybe Monty, if you don't mind, I'll just lead off quickly. I'm Tien. I'm the founder CEO of Aardvark Therapeutics, medical doctor by training. And next slide, please, Susan.
Sorry, that wasn't me. It's just
sorry. So we're a publicly traded company. So just the usual disclaimers. Just want to pause on that for a second. And then we are located in San Diego, California. We established in 2017. Our lead program is ARD 101, which Susan mentioned. It's a oral drug that we believe inhibits hunger and then may treat metabolic diseases. And this is the program that is currently in a phase 3 potentially pivotal trial, which we call HERO. It stands for Hyperphagia. It's a hunger elimination or reduction objective trial. Next slide, please. So the crux of our program is that we're addressing hunger as opposed to appetite, and maybe it's worthwhile to step back and explain what this means. Our eating behavior is really driven by two competing functions that are happening at the same time. Appetite is a reward-based drive, and hunger is a pain avoidance drive. It's like the carrots or stick, or maybe carrot cake and stick in a way. Appetite is if you love a certain type of food, like if it's ice cream or carrot cake, your appetite is driving you to eat that food item. And then hunger can be represented as if that favorite food item turned into dog food, for instance, you would no longer have any appetite for it, and you wouldn't electively eat it. But given enough time, hunger would compel you to eat that if that was the only thing available for you to eat. And both of these are regulated at the same time. Generally, when you eat food, one gut peptide hormone, GLP-1, helps give you satiety for appetite, and another, CCK, helps you take care of hunger when you eat food. In the cases of Prader-Willi syndrome, a lot of the individuals have a baseline CCK level that's not dissimilar to a normal individual, but the issue is that when they eat food, the CCK does not rise proportionally as it should, and there's a lack of satiety on the hunger axis. So behaviorally, a lot of Prader-Willi individuals suffer from this unabating hunger because they haven't been able to regulate this through the productive secretion of CCK. So the trigger is somehow broken in the case of folks with Prader-Willi, but we believe our drug is like a secondary trigger to induce the release of that CCK to give satiety to hunger, as well as convey potential improvement in lots of other aspects, which I'll go over in the subsequent slides. Next slide, please. So our investigational drug is an oral drug taken twice daily, and we believe it suppresses hunger by inducing this localized release of CCK. So to kind of summarize, our drug is gut restricted. So the vast majority of the drug is retained in the gut and not really systemically absorbed for the most part. About 99% of the drug still stays in the gut because the target of our drug is actually in the gut. because we're trying to stimulate this gut-brain signal for abrogation of hunger. And there's actually several things productive that inducing this local CCK release can be helpful for, in addition to hunger. Next slide, please. So this gut-brain signal, which is conveyed by the vagus nerve, can alleviate hunger. It also relates to reduction of anxiety. It also relates to helping with gut motility. A lot of patients and individuals with Prader-Willi syndrome suffer from really delayed gut transport, and they have a lot of constipation. We believe it's correlated with this lack of appropriate secretion of CCK. So this is another element that's potentially helpful here. And also, this natural signal of gut-brain CCK also preserves lean body mass and also can lower body fat and reduce inflammation as well. So this is actually the natural role of this gut-brain axis. Next slide, please. We are now testing this drug in investigational studies. As far as the way investigational drugs are proceeded, we first have bench research, of course, which we started in 2017. We've done safety studies in healthy volunteers. We've also had a phase 2 study where we test the drug in people with certain conditions. We had a general obesity study in 20 individuals. We also had another study with people with post-bariatric surgery with continued weight gain. And we had data on 18 subjects that with Prader-Willi syndrome that were dosed in a 28-day period, where we really saw very encouraging results. And based on success in these previous trials, it leads us now where we have this potentially pivotal phase 3 study, which we believe moves our drug closer to a potential approval in Prader-Willi. Next slide, please. So to review the clinical experience in Prader-Willi, we had 18 subjects that had been given our drug over a 28-day period. Our previous study was shorter in duration because at the time we only had clearance to dose the drug for 28 days. Now we have the ability to dose the drug in perpetuity in theory because of the much greater database of safety that we have now. And the hunger was measured through HQCT, which is the same endpoint that is used as the validated endpoint. We saw an average reduction of over 8 points in HQCT, and I want to emphasize that this is was measured even within a short 28-day period, it was very encouraging to us given the degree of change that we saw and how consistent it was. We also shared data that we saw about 1.5% reduction in body fat percentage in just that 1 month period, and a 2% improvement in lean body mass. So there was actually a net lean body mass gain. So the balance of body composition was also suggested to improve in that very short dosing period. We also saw anecdotally reductions in anxiousness, and we believe that we will have improvements in a variety of other parameters as well. And so for our phase 3, we're actually looking at a number of other secondary endpoints, which we have high confidence that we will have a good probability to see benefit. Next slide, please. So as a summary of what we know so far, we've had dosed ARD-101 in over 70 individuals with no serious adverse events. Majority of side effects were mild and transient and were resolved. We don't see any theoretic issue with combinations with other potential Prader-Willi treatments, including the approved or to be approved medications, because our drug being gut restricted is not competitive with liver or kidney for elimination, and we don't believe there should be reason to suspect that this would affect the immune system in a negative way either. So all these assurances lead us to have confidence to proceed with our current phase 3, which is now open. And for the next slide and the following, I'll defer to our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Monsi Jamin.
Thank you, Tian. So I'm Monsi Jamin. I'm also a pediatric endocrinologist and treated patients with Prader-Willi syndrome and worked with families to alleviate the burden of this disease. So it's very meaningful, not just to be at Aardvark, but to be here and to work with the advocacy groups and you all to bring this forward. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the HERO clinical trial and some of the things that we've placed in the study to make it as burdenless as possible. So a few facts about the HERO study. It's a global study. It's in 9 countries that we're planning. It's active in the United States, and we're testing our drug, ARD-101, that Tian's already talked about, against placebo. It's an oral tablet, several tablets that are taken twice a day. The treatment period is 12 weeks. And there's also an option for those who complete the study to receive the ARD-101 in a follow-up study for a longer period of time. I'm very excited about that because we know that people want to be able to receive drug even after participating in a parent study and continue to be on that active drug afterwards. Okay. And some of the things that I've talked about before, you might have heard about the HERO study, but something that was really important is, as a physician, T and I both are physicians, and we know the burden of just having any disease it can create, but this is more of the burden that's created within the family unit as well. So we wanted to decrease whatever we could in terms of the trial design to allow you to still participate. Therefore, we only actually have 4 in-person clinic visits, and then we have 3 telehealth visits built in between those in-clinic visits. We have an inclusive design, meaning that we actually decreased some of the other parameters that you're used to in clinical trials, including fasting. So we don't require fasting in this study. We also want to make sure that you are supported in terms of travel and lodging. So if you're going anywhere near or far, we will support travel and lodging. And we actually have several people we're working with in order to make sure that that's a seamless process for you. We also require a couple of things for this study. We want to have stability in the caregiver who's filling out some of the forms that we have in this study. And so that just means that someone who's with the participant of the trial several hours a day, just to notice any changes. Next, we're also really just wanting to hear from the community as well as things progress. We are always open for flexibility and improving our practices, and we work very, very closely with our sites as well to ensure that we've supported them as much as possible as well. And so some of the requirements that you might have already seen even on our study website or through these advocacy emails is some of the participation guidelines. So confirmed diagnosis of PWS, must be at least 13 years or older. Have the same caregiver at all visits. And as I mentioned in the previous one, having the same caregiver is important. To complete the questionnaires, that's on the last bullet there. And just to attend the visits. And again, it's only 4 in-person visits followed by 3 telehealth visits. I'm a visual person, so I always like to see where we are. So you can see a map of the US on the left side, where we are in the United States. But again, I mentioned 9 countries. It's a global clinical trial, and we're really excited to have this available to everyone with different demographic areas as well. And this information, and you look at the sites in the US, this is all available on clinicaltrials.gov. And actually, the next slide, I do have a QR code, which I'll stay on for a few minutes so you can see some of these details for yourself. So clinicaltrials.gov, the QR code will get you right to our website there, as well as our HERO for PWS website. Here we go. So let me stay on here for a moment as I talk to you a little bit more about some of the other pieces that we're doing, and I'll share that in the next slide. So we're actually working with partners in this, including Leap Cure, which is a concierge service that's allowing us to also make sure that patients from all over get access to this trial and also identify sites that may be easier for you to go to. Again, because we're providing travel and lodging, we think that we're trying to make this as accessible to patients and their families. And I always say this, and probably every time Susan's heard me talk about this several times, but for us, a clinical trial is just words on paper unless we have participants like you and the families and the sites and the physicians leading these trials. And we couldn't do any of this without you. So we're privileged to be able to work in this space and try to bring this much needed therapy forward. And very, very excited to be working with you all. Hopefully that's enough time for the QR code, and if not, I'm happy to put this back on the screen. And the last thing I just want to go over a couple of things is our website. Again, it directs you to some of the key pieces in terms of eligibility, some of the study details that I've already reviewed, and specifically also the locations. Again, it's hero4pws.com. And that QR code should have taken you there as well. And the last piece I would also like to talk to you about is Leap Cure, which I just mentioned was that concierge service we're using. Again, everything was designed to decrease the burden for families and the patients. And so hopefully this is part of the service that allows you to do that, not just to get access, but to alleviate some of the concerns you may have in participating in clinical trials. It's a service that we're really proud to be partnering with. And if you were at the conference just a couple of weeks ago, they were there as well, able to speak on this. But it's they're sending out some digital campaigns. There's some direct engagement if you choose to move forward. And then they will directly connect you with the sites to ensure that there's no gap in communication from when you're interested to when you can participate. And that's it in terms of the slides that I have to go over. But again, you know, a huge thank you. We are so grateful for the opportunity to even present today. And thank you, Susan and the team, because I think this is so important for us to be able to speak about the study, but also really thank you all for the participation. And one of the favorite things I can tell you is from the recent conference, it's one of my favorite conferences I ever get to attend. And it's because the first half is about the how do we do the science? And the second half is about the why, which to us is probably the first, second, and third most important thing. So thank you again for having us today.
Mansi and Tien, thank you so much for that presentation. I love how concise it was and it answered a lot of questions, but I know it also generated quite a few. So the questions are coming in through Q&A currently. I also had some come in by text while you were speaking. So I'm going to try to gather them up as best I can. Let's start with travel. You mentioned that travel is available. Can families go to any site that is open, or do they need to stay within a certain region of where they live?
They can go to any site. We would want them to be connected locally if they can. I think just to make it easier for them as well. But if not, that's why we have this in place. So if they have a site in mind, if they want to travel to that site, we will support that.
Are they required to have visited with that doctor before, or is the site open to anybody?
It's open to anybody.
That's great. Now, what if you begin at a site, maybe the site closest to you isn't yet available, so you want to start today, so you choose a different site. Can you move to the site that's closest to you when it does open, or do you need to stay with the original site you begin with?
It would be an individual by individual basis. So based on kind of what that timing would look like, because if it's only towards, you know, what if they're in a location and this person can't get into the closer site for a few weeks, but they're almost done with the study. So we'd work through the dynamics of that, and we'd have to work through with the sites, the two sites involved.
Sure.
It's not a closed thing. It's just we'd have to address it per individual basis.
Perfect. Drug needs to be taken 2 times a day. Is that breakfast and dinner, morning and night? When do they need to take the oral drug?
So our guidance is at least 6 hours apart and before any large meals. And it's only because we want to make sure that they have not necessarily an empty stomach, but not a completely full stomach.
Great. Let's talk about the age requirement. So you said 13 plus. Is there an upper limit to the age?
No.
So anyone over the age 13. What if someone's loved one is 12? How long do you anticipate this study will be open and available? When should they reach out to you?
So I will say we're very encouraged with what's happening in the space as well as the vigor to participate. So I anticipate if they're not turning 13 soon, we don't know what that timing could look like. But I will say we're working very, 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 very hard to get this to the younger population. So hopefully it's not even an issue.
And when this drug gets approved, because that's what we're working for, we're having positive mindsets, will it be available to individuals of younger ages, or is the minimum age at approval going to stay at 13?
We are trying to work towards the younger age. I mean, I'm also a pediatric endocrinologist, so my first thought is always to make sure it's available for all age groups.
Now, one of the benefits of participating in a clinical trial is having early access to a drug. So if it works for you, you can stay in this open label extension. How long will that be available to participants who finish the double-blind portion of the study?
So our goal is until approval. I mean, as a company, that's kind of our goal, and we will work towards that. It's, typically these open labels are usually a year and they extend it based on when the drug is going forward to approval. And so it's probably the same timeline, but we want this available to everybody.
So a person who participates in this trial, if they find benefit with the drug, theoretically, they could have early access for years.
Yes.
Um, we've got a lot of questions about VICAT and if people can participate in your trial while taking VICAT.
So not while taking VICAT. Again, one of the main things about phase 3 trials is that we want to have pure data on how our drug works as well. But we do allow those that have previously taken it and not currently on it to go into the trial as well. There's some specific stipulations there, but they can't be on it at the same time.
And what about any other drugs that people have been on for maintenance? For example, Risperdal, Lexapro. I'm trying to think of the many drugs that so many of our loved ones are on. Are there any drugs that exclude a person from participating in this study?
So we've actually actively made some changes, and that'll be dependent on which site you're going to as it rolls out as well. But there's less limitations. That's what I can say now. Almost some of the things that we were anticipating that may create barriers for participation, we've removed those, including some of the drugs. And so it just depends on when we can fully release that information, but it's soon.
You showed the geographic map of where the sites are at. Are there any available in Canada?
Yes, we will have sites in Canada. And if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, there's actually I know the graph I showed, actually the map I showed, it looks all in the US, but there is a couple of sites in Canada as well. But we're just going through the regulatory process to initiate those.
Sure. So if someone wants to see exactly which sites are available, will they find that on the Hero for PWS website?
They'll be on Hero for PWS is only for the US right now. And again, because these websites also need regulatory approval based on where they are projected. But clinicaltrials.gov has all of our sites. And that was the middle QR code that I had presented. I'm happy to put that back up on the screen as well, if that's helpful for people.
Yeah, why don't you pop that up? So as we're talking, people can look at that if they like. Again, we have a lot of questions about locations. So if a clinical trial site close to me is not yet available, what's your recommendation? Do I continue to reach out to that site? Do I wait? Do I look at another site? What would you advise?
If the clinical trial site is not available, I mean, like I said, if you're willing to travel to another site, then those are options as well. And we would support that.
So if I'm anxious to get started, I can pick the site that I want to go to. Maybe San Diego. It's beautiful down here. Or I can wait till the site closer to me opens.
Yeah, and what I would encourage you, if you see on this page as well, if you go to Hero for PWS directly, it'll link you to LeapCure. And one thing LeapCure is really great at doing is also linking you to those other sites that if you are interested that are open and can go to. So I think those are, or even if it's a different area and there isn't a site close to you, they can identify a site that would be easier for you to travel to. So the left QR code is the Hero for PWS, and it has a direct link to LeapCure as well.
So Nancy, I'm getting a lot of questions about LeapCure specifically. Maybe we can drill down a little bit. LeapCure is a concierge service, and it's helping parents connect to sites.
Yeah, so they essentially what I think the feedback we got before we even initiated this trial was that, and I know this just from practice as well, that families and patients, what the worst thing can happen is that you're interested in a trial, you connect with the site, but you get nothing back, no communication, or it's a little delayed. And it's super frustrating, right? Because you're like, I'm ready to go. I'm so interested. I've called a few times, and sites are extremely busy as well, right? They may have 2 people dedicated to a study. And so you're kind of playing, both sides are heavily burdened. One wants to participate, both want to participate, but the site may not have the resources. So what we did was put Leap Cure in place to mitigate some of the timing nuance that happens when someone's interested to when they hear back. So what Leap Cure does is they come in, you will answer a couple of pre-screening questions, some of the ones that I had already placed on the previous screen. And basically, if though you qualify for that, then it tags them and it says, okay, we need to connect with this family. They have a very quick turnaround time of a matter of like a day or so to like connect with the family of that's interested, and then they go through a bigger like questionnaire just to make sure that they don't burden you with going to a site before you're ready or you can't qualify. And I think the other worst thing is you go to a site and you screen fill for some of the quick questions you could have been asked. So they ask you those questions. They make sure that if you go, you have a high probability of moving forward in the study. And then they connect you with whichever site that they're working with that's open, closer to you or kind of where you've decided where you would like to go.
Sure. So if you already have a relationship with a clinician at a specific site, should you reach out to the clinician at the site, or should you go through LeapCure?
So in the clinicaltrials.gov website, there's contact information for those sites as well. And you can do both. You can do either.
Okay.
But if you know that there is a trial, you have a relationship with the physician, and they have their communication path specifically set out in clinical trials, I would encourage to do that because it's there. But I also think that LeapCure is just an easier way to get some answers up front if you'd qualify. But I'm always the one, I try every route, because if I'm fully interested, then I'm going to go to LeapCure. I'm going to go to that website. I'm also going to go to the site, and I want to participate, and you will get an answer one way or the other.
Great. All right, a few more questions. Is there any restrictions for anxiety, OCD, or impulsivity? Would those behaviors exclude you from participating?
We ask that for certain conditions that they have stability based on the investigators, or investigating the doctor who's running the trial at that site, based on their assessment. It just has to be stable. And then they'll look at your medical records and make sure in terms of like the medications you're on and your previous notes or just history from you.
You did mention one that you did a phase 2 study, and you're optimistic that this drug will have additional benefits beyond hyperphagia. Do you expect that some of the behaviors associated with PWS might be benefited?
Jan?
Yes, no, absolutely. We're very high confidence about that. The gut-brain pathway has more to do in biology than just reducing hunger. It has, we think, a very correlative anti-anxiety benefit. I mean, you have sometimes normal individuals will have a injury to a part of their vagus nerve, and often they'll be more anxious and irritable, and also have higher body fat percentage and hyperphagia as a result of that injury. And the opposite happens if we can amplify that signal, which is what we think we're doing. So we're very optimistic that beyond just the hyperphagia, those secondary benefits may be evident, and we're going to formally measure that in our phase 3. And that's like one of the slides we had kind of parsed out all the different possible benefits from this gut-brain signaling that we're amplifying.
Do people need to be on a special diet while they're participating in this trial?
No, but I do recommend that if there are major changes, you inform the site on the visits that you do have, or via the telehealth visits, because we want to closely monitor if there are changes, and we hope there's positive changes, but we would like to know any changes if they're fairly different from what your routine is.
So I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, that you want people to stay on their current diet regimen and not make changes.
Correct.
Perfect.
Right. Just add, we're not requiring any type of like special dietary restriction, because our drug mechanistically, we don't think that's necessary. So that's one of the potential benefits of our drug. We believe that we're not requiring any type of special accommodation when you're on the drug in terms of the diet.
Great. I have two questions about side effects. You mentioned that they were temporary and minor. What were some of these side effects that you observed in the phase 2 study?
So we had two parts to it, and actually, when we look at the dosing in the second part, I'll tell you them and then I'll explain. So the first one, person had a history of reflux, so they had a bit of bitter taste in the mouth, and that resolved within just a day or two. And they continued and completed the study. This was early on. And then the second one actually had diarrhea. And that also resolved. But again, based on what Tian has already mentioned in terms of improving gut motility, we hope that that's actually a positive effect, that it helps with that. But, it was a side effect that we noted, and we've been very transparent about it, but we are monitoring it. So in the study, we just asked to see if there's changes in stool as well, just because we want to see if there is a benefit there.
I can't speak for the community, but I'll tell you that side effect would be well desired in our home.
Yeah.
I hope it works.
Yeah. So we've heard as well.
We have a lot of questions still coming in, so I would like to extend our time together for perhaps 5 more minutes. Let's see how many of these we can get through. You mentioned travel and lodging is reimbursed to parents or paid for. What about meals or other travel expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
We
Yes,
want
sir.
it to be as easy as possible for you. So if there are other expenses, absolutely meals. And if there's other things that we need to consider, we're open. And we work directly with the site as well to understand what that could look like.
Okay. And if a person gets placebo during the double-blind portion, will they have an opportunity to have the active drug afterwards?
Yes. And so open label is just that. So one thing that I really love about this trial is that it's not a long trial. So it's 3 months. So you're in either an active or placebo. But if you participate, you're guaranteed to get active drug if you complete the study in 3 months.
Okay. We're going to do one more, and I think that this is a great place to kind of end. But if you're interested in participating, who's the first person you should reach out to participate?
That's a great question. I think that, again, what you see on this on the screen right now, so you're seeing the QR code. So I'll just go back to this as well. So I would say this: in order to make sure that you can participate, go to our website and connect with First Avenue Leap Cure. I also think that you will find the sites and see if there's a site close to you. And if not, then what I would also encourage is find if you have an endocrinologist, if you know that they know research what's going on, then ask them as well. But Leap Cure will definitely get you to a site and connect you. Even if it's not through them, they'll at least have you on their list of people to make sure that they at least circle back and get you connected. And then again, I always think don't just do one, do multiple, only because it allows you just to get ahead. And just because we've seen so much interest that I think it'll be important just to go both ways.
Yeah. And how many people are you trying to enroll?
90.
90. So that's not a lot. That's not a lot of people, not a lot of seats. So I would encourage everyone who is interested to use those QR codes, and let's see if we can get this study enrolled. A huge thank you, of course, for Mansi and Tien for joining us today, and to all of you who joined us to learn more about ARD 101. I hope that this presentation gives you a clear understanding of this clinical trial and how ARD 101 may offer a new path forward for our community. As we discussed earlier, participating in a clinical trial, it's a powerful way to contribute to progress towards PWS treatments. And we're so grateful to everyone who has and is considering to take that next step and participate in a trial. Huge thank you again to Mansi and Tien for sharing their time and expertise. We will be sending a follow-up email with a recording from today's presentation, along with contact information. So if you have additional questions or if you'd like more information about the trial, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will forward all communication to the Aardvark team. Together, we can continue advancing research and improving the lives of those with PWS. So have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.